know when learning's happening, but you can almost feel it when it does. And I think that that's something that a lot of our coaches would say they're experiencing with their individuals or goalkeepers that they've worked with in a group for a while now.
Yeah, I think this has been an incredible year for us to develop as coaches and to really start to unravel the way that we specifically talk about goalkeeping. So for example, TKI, now we have our own principles of goalkeeping. We have established what those principles are, those sub principles, and that's how we teach. We don't teach by just a technique. We're working on catching and it has to be done this way. We're working by principles and we're shaping and designing our sessions based on those principles. So how do we define what success looks like in possession, and what do we define as what success looks out of possession, right? Defend the goal, right? Like stop the opponents from scoring. Well, here's our 3 principles that are going to be able to help you to be able to accomplish that goal. And then how do I set the session? How do I design a session that's going to allow for goalkeepers to solve those problems in a divergent way, right? So Tori could solve it one way, I could solve it another way. And then we're continually putting these goalkeepers in situations where they're having to use their tools and their skill sets to be able to be adaptable problem solvers. And I think because of that, we have really helped and support goalkeepers to understand the game more themselves and more about themselves, right? So like, I know I'm quick and I can be super preventative in this circumstance. I might not be as preventative in maybe say protecting the goal area, but I know myself and I do that well and I'm going to play to my strengths, but I also know I'm going to ask for more support when it's protecting the goal area, right? And the more I think as coaches that we can help players understand the game and themselves more, the more beneficial it's going to be for that player in the long term. It might be, a little messy in training to begin with, but in the long term, they're going to have a greater understanding of the game, which I think if you poll a lot of coaches in our country, what's wrong with American goalkeepers is they'll say they're robots and that they don't understand the game. And so we've taken that feedback and we've tried to figure out how do we then help to create more autonomous, flexible problem solvers. And we do that through a multitude of different ways that encourage goalkeepers to communicate with each other and ask questions and be more curious about how they can interpret the game specific to their skill sets, and how do they fit their skill set within their team strategy. And this year we've seen explosive growth, and it's been fun, Tori, to just like stand back and watch and just stand back and watch all these goalkeepers just thrive. And not only the goalkeepers, but the coaches as well. Like, it has been remarkable to see the growth and I say this in a very non-condescending way, but like to see the growth in like Kieran this year, who has just been like, I'm so hungry to learn and I want to be better and I want to support goalkeepers' growth in their journeys. And here's how I'm trying it, and like trying to collaborate more, or even like Cam really stepping up to talk more about the game and help us now that she's in her journey to play again. It's been really helpful to be able to have those moments of collaborate and conversation. And it's been so fun. It's so hard to coach this way, but it's so fun.
Yeah, it is. It's just so cool. Like when you see things take fold and you get a chance to watch goalkeepers do things that maybe they weren't doing a year ago. And, it's a testament to them too, and them coming in here and working and being willing and vulnerable, because it's a vulnerable experience to be like, I might go to training and save 5 balls today, but maybe I'm learning in that, and I think that we've had a lot of people who have bought into it and invested in themselves in that way. And it has been a lot of fun. And that's why we do it, because we love people and we love goalkeeping, and helping people while doing something we love is the best. Can't beat it.
And I think too, Tori, what else I really love about it is like the way that we coach is reflected in our beliefs and our values, right? So like, for example, we ask goalkeepers to be brave, try new things, be creative, explore, that learn, and we remind people that learning isn't linear, right? That you're not just going to keep getting better and better, or else, ultimately you would never need to train anymore, right? And I think we reflect that core value and those beliefs within our own coaching as well, right? Like, hey, we're going to try something new that we've never done maybe outside the box a little bit, but we're going to see if it helps. We're going to see if it supports you. And I think, you and I and all the coaches at TKI are so willing to hear feedback and listen, at the end of all of our sessions. What did you like? What did you not want to do ever again? How can we change it to meet your needs, right? Even within a session, we might say that. How can we change this to suit your needs? And I think that, I don't know, there's just something about like acting in accordance to your values and your beliefs, and being the first person to step up and be like, this is how we want you guys to be brave. And so, you know what? I'm going to be brave today.
Yep.
Yeah, it's fun and it's enjoyable.
Speaking of fun, number 2 on the list is we have gone bi-coastal. I'm not going to lie to you, that doesn't feel like a real word to me, but you used it, so I just assumed that it was. I just love it. One, it's a chance to go out to San Diego, so who doesn't want that? It's so sunny and lovely. But 2, we get to work with a population of goalkeepers that we just typically wouldn't get the chance to. And starting our year out last year there was awesome, because then some of those goalkeepers then came to our summer camp or came for a clinic and a long weekend, and we were able to just kind of make relationships with athletes that we might not have had the chance to otherwise, besides on social or through this very podcast. And we just want to help as many people as we can. And, there's training all over the world, realistically. So the fact that you would choose to train with us just always means so much to us. And getting a chance to do that with more people is always something we look forward to.
Maybe people don't know the backstory of how we ended up doing some stuff in San Diego, but most of you guys who listen would know that my sister-in-law is Kaylin Sheridan. So we had the opportunity to draft her at Sky Blue, and Marie and I coached her, and then invited her to stay for pre-season or off season, and just a relationship emerged from that. Not only between Kaylin and Marie and I, but also Maria's sister Dom, who married Kaylin. So now she's like part of the family.
Relationship truly emerged.
Yes, it really did. And she played for Gotham, which was great because, Dom and Kaylin were here year round. And then she decided that she was going to stretch herself and challenge herself and go to San Diego, which was really difficult for the family because we wanted her to be here. But we totally were in support of her new endeavor and her new challenge that she felt was going to be right for her career, to go to San Diego. And so a couple years ago, Kaylin asked me to train her while we were on family vacation in Florida. And I was like, cool, let's invite some other friends. So Katie Lund came, and Aubrey Kingsbury and Mandy Hott, and it just turned into this like goalkeeper camp preseason training, and it kind of like took off. And now we're like, great, we want to help, pay for some of the things for these pros, and like, let's do a camp that can kind of balance it out beforehand. And now we get to work with this coming up next week, 150 goalkeepers that we might not otherwise get to meet and get to support and get to see the smiles on their face when not only do they get to meet some of the people that they watch on a weekly basis in the pro game, but be influenced by them, to hear some of their journeys, to hear some of their feedback and their insights about their career. And it has just opened the door to so many cool and unique new relationships that we've seen the impact of the TKI team now across the country. And it's fun to be able to nurture those relationships throughout the year.
Sure is. And look, we're headed back. By the time that people are listening to this, we'll be packing our bags and heading that way. So if you haven't signed up, I mean, at this point, you might have just mere hours to do so, but why not?
Yeah, we're almost sold out.
We are getting very close. So by the time you listen, we might be sold out. But just know that we'll be back. All right, number 3, and I'll be honest with you, this might be my favorite, and it's like just one of those things in coaching that reminds you why you do it, or like a reason you do it. And this year, I think we've had a lot of goalkeepers that have achieved their dream or like one of their big goals, whether it be to make their varsity team, to make a new club team, or to sign their first professional contract. And getting an opportunity to work with those goalkeepers and be a small part of their journey is very, very special. And it's something that we'll never take for granted. And these goalkeepers, they work really, really hard to do that. They're training tirelessly. They're in the gym. They're asking for feedback. They're watching game film. So to know the hours they put into it, and to know that it's probably a dream they've had for themselves from a young age, it just feels very, very cool and inspiring to watch them kind of let it all come full circle.
Tori, we talk a lot about it at camp, right? Like, with the staff before camp, and we have these like little huddles, and we give like a pump up talk about how important these moments are. And one of the things I always get to talk about is we're here because of someone else's influence in our life, right? And like no more than my college coach that helped me so much, like believed in me, equipped me. We're all here. Like TKI is a thing because of that coach and his influence in my life, and because he was a teacher, and he was a math teacher, and he was my goalkeeper coach in college. And not only did he inspire me, but he equipped me with the tools. And I attribute so much of my career as a player and as who I am as a coach and who I am as a person back to his influence in my life. And I think that we are privileged now to be able to help people just the way he did, help me in my career. He was like one of the first people to say like, hey, you should pursue playing professionally. And I didn't even know what that meant. Like, I had no idea. Like, I just knew I didn't want to go back to school, and I didn't really want to use my biology degree. And he was like, you can keep playing soccer. And I was like, yes, that is exactly what I wanted to.
Sign me up.
Yes. And I remember him giving me like videotapes on VHS of like Arsenal, and just like fueling my passion for the sport. And it is.
Welcome to the Keeper Institute podcast. My name is Tori Corsaro. I'm a strength and conditioning and goalkeeper coach here at the Keeper Institute, and your host for today's show. The Keeper Institute is a unique goalkeeper training facility in New Jersey aimed at developing better goalkeepers and better people. On this podcast, we will be discussing all things goalkeeping, character development, and more. Keeper Institute podcast.
I think someone should get us a button.
Yeah, I think I'd still do it though with my mouth.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I would probably press the button sometimes.
Okay, we could get you a button right here at your desk that I'm sitting at still.
What if it was like a controller that had like 5 different options so that I could do different air horns for each one?
I bet you there's an app for that.
I think we're onto something.
All right, and if
there's TKI Podcast air horn. And I think we should bring it to camp. Do you know, like when kindergarten teachers go 1, 2, 3, and all the kids say eyes on me? It would be like our own air horn kind of thing.
I didn't know that. I like it. I'm into it. I mean, I'm always going to be into an idea like that.
Yeah.
Super into it. All right, Joel, hit us with the topic. Now that we're done talking about the air horn and the buttons and kindergarten, I want to know our topic.
All right. As you know, as you would expect, I'm going to say, I'm very excited about this. So excited that the other night, 11:30 at night, I woke up and wrote in our shared notes between Tori and I this topic and our 3 things on the list. And it was right after we did our camp 2 weekends ago, or last weekend it was, with Kaylin in Downingtown, Pennsylvania, which was a massive success, and it was awesome. So much fun. Worked with a whole bunch of new kids, which was great. But I had this idea because we did a Q&A with her, and some of the youngsters in the first camp had really good questions. And just listening to Kaylin talk, a lot of what she was saying, I really resonated with when I played. And I know that the kids resonated with. And also, it was just so, sometimes it's really cool to be able to hear pros be vulnerable and talk about things that are hard, or talk about things that challenges they had faced in their career, and how no matter what level you get to, those challenges never really go away. And some of those same feelings don't really go away. And so I think we're going to spend a few minutes today just normalizing some things that goalkeepers feel, and supporting you just by saying it's a shared experience. Yeah. We're with you. It's a shared experience that we've all had being goalkeepers, even though sometimes goalkeeping can be very lonely It can be really exhausting. It can be very pressure filled. And at times, even when you're on a team with another goalkeeper, you can still feel like nobody really understands what I'm going through. So we want to normalize some of those feelings. And Tori's already seen my list. How do you feel about the list? You feel like it resonates and like sinks in a little bit with you too?
Oh yeah, every piece of it makes sense perfectly, and I would argue that if we took a poll amongst like people who walk through the doors today, even they'd be like, "Oh yeah, I felt that. I felt that
Mm-hmm.
before."
Yeah. I still think I feel some of these things now, like on a regular basis, and maybe you do too, like with coaching.
Mhm.
And I feel them sometimes with coaching. I also feel them when I'm commentating because that is a more uncomfortable space for me.
Right.
And so I think I draw a lot of parallels between playing and commentating. And, you know, the actually coaching helped me be a better commentator because, it trying to give space for some fears and some pressure filled situations has allowed me to flourish more as a commentator because I can't look at you, Tori, and say, hey, you got to be brave and just surrender the outcome and try your best, stay present in the moment, and maybe do some deep breathing when you feel your moments, your heart's going to pound out of your chest. Like I actually do those things now. So all right, let's get into it. Number one, we want to help you normalize the feeling of anxiety and nerves. The feeling of like, oh, I'm so nervous for that game. Like everyone's expecting me to say I'm super excited, and maybe I am kind of excited, but I'm also kind of nervous. We want to normalize those nerves because I think a lot of people think that like nerves are bad and that like nerves are a sign of incompetence. And actually, that's so far from true, right? Nerves aren't a sign of incompetence. It's not a sign of like you're not prepared. It's a sign that like, hey, this moment is meaningful to you and there's something on the line. And you know what? You don't know the outcome. You have no idea what the outcome is going to be. You could have a great game. You could have a bad game. You could have 40 saves or no saves. You could win. You could lose. And every time you step on the field is an act of bravery, is an act of courage. And of course, when you don't know how the final outcome is going to go, there could be some nerves associated with that really meaningful moment for you.
Yeah, I don't know where it got twisted along the way that nerves were a bad thing. I mean, too much of anything can be a bad thing, right? Like if I'm so nervous that I can't like get myself to do something, like okay, we got to work on that, right? But having nerves, I don't think could be more normal than it is. Like it's so normal. Like if there's something you care about, of course I'm going to be nervous and I want to try not to let myself to get like too anxious about it because I can't control the outcome. But that is where the anxiety comes from is the not knowing, the unknowns. Like the unknowns of life are usually the scariest part. But like having that nerves, having that anxiety is so normal. And I would almost argue that everyone has it before a big game. That butterfly in your stomach, that like little bit of like goosebumps you get as they're playing the national anthem, like that's a little bit of nerves. That's you caring about this moment.
Yeah, and I think it's good,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, like if I don't have nerves, I'm like, hello, what's going on? Like this clearly doesn't mean that much, right? My challenge to everybody who's listening to this, whether you're a parent or whether you're a player, if you're a parent, talk to your kids about it. If you're a player, ask your parents about it, right? Just have the conversation of, hey, mom and dad, when do you feel nervous?
Yeah.
What goes on in your day when you feel nervous and how do you respond to that? Or like, for me, I'm a parent. I'm very aware of, I talk to my child about resilience without talking to him and lecturing him about resilience, right? I say, this is hard. This is hard for mama. This is really hard for me right now, but I'm going to try again. And
Yeah.
I'm going to try again. And I'm going to be resilient. And without lecturing him, I open the door to like, hey, this is something I struggle with too. You're not alone. And this isn't something that you're not capable of. We all have hard things. Yours is coloring inside the lines. Mine is speaking on national TV, right? But it's all relative. And I think having conversations about nerves probably takes a little bit of the pressure off of us, also humanizes us because like I remember as a young person thinking that like my parents knew everything and that they were infallible and that they were superheroes, which they are, right? But like just having conversations to be able to normalize those nerves, I think makes it a little bit more digestible and less lonely when you're feeling those moments of stress and anxiety.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's
You ever get nervous before big games, even though you have no control over the outcome?
Jillian, do I get nervous? I get nervous before every game. I downloaded a coloring app on my iPad. So if you ever catch me before a game, like I probably look like, man, this girl's in it. She's like doing things on that iPad that are for this game. She's coloring puppies.
Hilarious.
I'm coloring puppies because I
Hilarious.
get so nervous. And like a big thing that I'm into as well is like I speak about it because that's what I know for me works. Like I have to be like, whew, I'm nervous. And I know that I can't control it, but I still get nervous before this game. And if I talk about it, I take away some of its power of like getting too anxious. And I'm just like, okay, I'm normal nervous. And then the whistle blows and I'm like, okay, here we go. Let's do this.
I love that. I think we all have those moments.
So download the coloring app.
All right, number 2. So one is nerves. Number 2, this is something that I've learned, like probably my biggest takeaway from 2024, like personally. I've been like reading these fiction books. I think I've told you about this, but I've been reading these fiction books and just like escape, like get my brain to calm down because it never stops. And so I've been reading these fiction books and somehow, I don't know how, I just have picked up all these stinking books where the main character wants a different life and they want a different life. I want to be part of this, whatever. And then they get that life. Like something happens and in all the books it's different, right? Like maybe it's magic or maybe you work hard and achieve it. But in all the books, they want for a different life, they get that life, and then they realize that their life is the exact same as it was when they didn't have the life they thought they wanted. And it really got me thinking of like, all year long, this has been a really hard year professionally for me with like all my travel and all the TKI work and everything. And so many times I remember thinking to myself, man, I just really don't want to travel. Like the travel's so hard. I'm going to miss my family. And like, oh, it'd be so great if I didn't have to travel. And then I thought to myself, well, everybody has hard things in their life. Every single person. It doesn't matter if you make a certain amount of money. It doesn't matter if you play on a certain team. It doesn't matter if you get an award or an achievement. It's never going to fully take away the hard things in your life. It's great. It's awesome to achieve and it feels good to meet your goals and things, but it's never going to fully take away what's hard in your life. And I think coming to that realization this year that everybody has hard relative to their own life. And maybe the goal isn't to just take away the hard. It's just to become stronger, to endure the hard better and like more enjoyably go through a process that's really difficult. Right. And so at the end of it, you're always going to have those experiences and those obstacles and those challenges, but you feel more stronger and more resilient to be able to handle them and deal with them. And sometimes, thinking back to my own career, I used to think like, oh, I can't wait to retire because then the pressure is going to be off. And then I retired and there was still so much more pressure. It was just in a different way, right? Like providing for my family or keeping my job or whatever it might be, making TKI work to what it is now. And that was my biggest takeaway this year is that we all have hard. We don't want to wish away our circumstances. We just want to become more resilient, kind to others and ourselves through it. And ultimately, we'll either get to our goal or we won't. But either way, it will have been more enjoyable throughout the process.
Choose your hard. Doesn't matter what you do, where you go. Like you're gonna choose some kind of hard, and it's just still gonna be hard, but it might just be a different hard.
You have anything that you faced this year that you thought was especially hard?
I think like more so honestly my personal life. Being in a relationship can be so rewarding and awesome, but also it's hard. Like it's the first time that I had ever had to share my space with someone or share like all of my time with someone because we live together. And I think for me that was like probably the most eye-opening thing, because it's like, well, this is the person I love. I want to spend time with them, but also how do I make sure that I still am taking care of myself the way I need, and having to learn not only how to share my space and my time, but also communicate in a effective way that is good for both of us as well. So
Yeah.
I think for me, that was something that I spent like the first half of the year after we met kind of like learning about how can I also show up as what I want for me, but show up how I want for that person as well.
Yeah. Um, Thanks for sharing and being vulnerable. I feel that it's only right if I share and be vulnerable too. So this year, this year was especially hard for me. It was my first time. I'm the head of Saturday night 7:30 on Ion, and with JP Camera. And I think this year was especially hard for me to feel that finding a balance between I strive to be better and um, it's okay if I'm rewarded for that, and it's okay if I'm not rewarded for that, right? So making sure that my value isn't just based on my performance and the games that I get. Obviously, everyone wants to work playoffs. Everyone wants to work the final. This year, that didn't happen for me, and that was really hard for me to deal with. But it was a really good learning lesson for me of like, hey, I really enjoy this. It fulfills it's hard, it's challenging, and I like that. It fulfills this desire in me to stay in the game and educate people, because I feel like I can do that through broadcast. It provides my family a better life, with more resources and things, but also pushing myself to want to achieve, getting a playoff game, or people thinking that my work is valuable, right? And then being really frustrated when I didn't get that. That was really hard for me to wrestle with, and I had to, I quickly pivoted to back to I did my absolute best this year. And it is very subjective, just like goalkeeping. Some goal coaches are going to like the way you interpret the game, and some aren't. And wrestling with making sure that my worth and my value is not attached to a status or a game or performance, and reminding myself that, like, hey, this is still really enjoyable, even though I didn't get to what my goal was to work in the off season, and it doesn't mean that the whole season was a failure.
Right.
I that Bucks player, the Greek guy, Giannis, I don't know how to say his last name, but a reporter asked him about that. Like, they didn't make the playoffs, or they didn't make the final or something. And he was like, every year that you go to your job as a media person, like, do you think it's a failure because you didn't get a raise? Like, is it a failure because you didn't, get some kind of publication? And the guy was like, no. And he was like, exactly. So, like, don't try to like put my worth in like getting to the playoffs, and that was a really good lesson and something hard that I had to wrestle with this year. However, I think I'm better for it, and I'll probably pop up again at another time, but I'll be more prepared to deal with it.
Be more prepared. Just two vulnerable queens sitting right here.
Which is a great way to segue to our last one. So we are normalizing nerves. We're normalizing hard situations and circumstances. And we are also normalizing the answer, I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know. This is an easy one for me, because I am always so honest, because I don't want to BS people, and I don't want to, I don't want to say something that's not true and lead someone down a path that's not right. So if someone asks me a question and I don't know the answer, I just say, I don't know, but I'm going to try to find out. I'll try to, figure out that answer for you. Or I'm not sure at this moment. Let me ask 3 other people that might know the answer, and we can kind of come to a conclusion together, right? And in your goalkeeping journey, if someone asks you a question of like, how do you solve pressure, and you legitimately don't know, it's okay to say, I don't know, right? Like, even in our environment, if someone doesn't know the answer, that's great for me to know that they don't know, because then I can help and support them, right? And if you just act like you have it all together all the time, people might not know that you actually need a little bit of support. So saying, I don't know, is a great way to kind of say, hey, I need some support in this. I need some help, because I'm not sure what the answer is. And that might be tactical, but that also might just be like, hey, what are your goals and your aspirations? What level do you want to play at? And you just say, I don't know yet. Yeah. And that could be a great tool for you to check in with yourself to see, like, hey, what is it that I want? What is it that I need right now?
Yeah. I think that is like the big thing is you don't have to have all the answers and you don't have to pretend, because like there's just things you don't know yet, right? But it's
Mm-hmm.
having the I don't know yet mentality and being willing to use it, and or like using I don't know, let me get curious. Because like, side note, when we're coaching, sometimes kids, I'll be like, well, what did you feel there? And they're like, I don't know, because it's just their instinctual. So, no. Do you actually not know, or do you need to be reflective for a minute? And then they're
Mm-hmm.
reflective, and then maybe they have something. Or it's like, I don't know, can you help me? Because I don't feel anything. So I think it just gives you a really good moment to be like, okay, my answer is I don't know. What could my next step be so that I can know?
Yeah. And ultimately, I think that it will help us more than the act of like thinking, oh, I'm being vulnerable in this moment, right? Like, or I need to pretend. I think that act of vulnerability is such an indication of strength for
Yeah,
you to say to someone else or in front of your peers, I really don't know yet. That's such a mark of strength for me and something that people can really build on, right? Like, you know, because when you say I don't know, it, like you said, it sparks maybe reflection, introspection, but also you might now go seek out some different solutions from people or have conversations that bring some more awareness or some more alignment to it. What it is that what it is exactly that you need and want in those moments, right?
absolutely.
Like you might ask someone like, hey, what do you need right now to be able to manage this situation? They might say, I don't know. But when they walk away, they're going to be like, oh, it's okay for me to have needs. What is it that I need? Do I need to listen to music? Do I need to calm down and do some yoga? Do I need to make sure I'm by myself or with other people? Do I like to dance? Now all these questions are going through your head and it's like, well, I don't know the answer. So then what? Trial and error. Then you might find the solution that works for you, right?
I love
Anyway,
it.
we're all in this crazy position, this crazy world together, and I think also which brings some awareness to like collaboration is awesome. And like one of the reasons I love TKI so much is because you and I get to work with remarkable other coaches and players, and we're all just trying to work together to support each other and goalkeepers and development and move the needle forward in this position.
Takes a village. It certainly does. And I love our village, but I'm
Yeah.
biased, I guess.
Yeah.
Jill, I have the question.
Oh, okay. What is it?
I'm very excited. You know when like people do that thing
I'm
right before the
excited.
new year, like I excited.
I'm
Um,
excited.
in the new year, where they'll be like leaving behind blank in 2024, or like bringing this in 2025. I'll give you the decision which one you want to do, but I'll start for you and I'll tell you what I'm leaving behind in 2024. It's not coming
Okay.
with 2025.
Okay.
I could just be jaded because I just had, the stomach bug, but I am leaving Chipotle behind in 2024. If you're listening
Oh,
to this and you love Chipotle, I'm sorry, but it ain't coming with me, and it's been forever. It's been
sad. That's
changed in my
sad.
mind from the stomach bug.
That's sad. I eat Chipotle every weekend on the road by myself for dinner on Saturday nights.
Dinner Saturdays. Thank God I'm not there.
Are you gonna bring? What are you bringing to 25, or do you want me to go first?
Mm, into 25, I'm going to bring in like some more alignment.
Hmm.
I want what I do to be like aligned in everything, or like, my values and my character. Like, I want to get really clear on all the things that are important to me and make sure they align.
Hmm. Um. Well, in 2024, I think what I want to leave behind is comparison. I know probably a lot of people struggle with that one. And I think, just reflecting back on my year, I was most happy when I was most content, or what I enjoyed a lot was just being present in the moment. Like my children bring me so much joy in this world. Commentating brings me so much joy. Being part of the TKI family brings me so much joy. And like, you guys love me for who I am, not, how much I know about goalkeeping or, what games I call. You literally just love me because of who I am. And my kids love me when I spend time with them. Like, I don't need to do anything extravagant. I could sit down and build a cardboard box with them and they would love it. Right. Like, I don't need anything extravagant. I don't need to be something. I don't need to do something to be
Right.
loved for who I am. Right. So just leaving behind that comparison, because it really does. It really negatively impacts me in a way that produces so much anxiety of like, I'm not, and I need to strive or get or do these things to be loved and valued. So I'm leaving that behind. And in 2025, my theme for the year, usually I do a word of the year. I can't sum this up in a word, but I am going to try to just be as present as possible and be more focused on being resilient rather than happy. More resilient than happy, because I think for so long, I thought my whole life, all I wanted to do was be happy, and anything that wasn't happy was a failure or a mistake. And so, like we were talking about earlier, just being more kind and more resilient rather than wishing for something else, or judging and judging, oh, this is bad and I can't really be content through it. Is just focusing, being more resilient and kind when things are really hard in my life and not wishing it away.
Love that. That is so good. And I bet you it resonates with a lot of people as well.
I hope so. That's why we do this whole podcast thing, Tor. Maybe it's that one person in North Dakota.
You never know. You never know.
And if you guys are enjoying the podcast, please reach out, give us some feedback. If you load the podcast but somehow managed to listen to this one episode, give us some feedback. We want to serve people. We want to meet you guys where you are. We want to help support you. We want to provide value to you, whether you're a parent, a player, or a coach. All we want to do is help. So any feedback is very welcome, positive, negative. Maybe we'll read it on the air if you guys give it to us. Let us know what you want to hear more about, less about. We're here to support you and care about you guys.
We sure are, but that's all we got for you today. So we'll catch you later.
Catch you later.